I'm always correcting my child. What do you mean to say connect with your child? What does even connection look like? I'm Riri Trivedi and I'm a psychotherapist, a trainer and a parenting coach. And today in this video, I'm going to be explaining in detail the first positive parenting guideline, which is connection versus correction. So we must understand that children are inherently very curious, and as they are growing up at every age, they want to explore new things, they want to learn new things, and their brain is not yet fully developed to understand the logic of why they should not do certain things and why they should do certain things, or what they should avoid and not avoid, because their brains are still very young. What we think, which is very obvious as adults, for children it may not be that obvious. That is why when they are small, as parents, we are always very protective. We don't want to get them into trouble. We don't want them to harm themselves. So we always find ourselves correcting them all the time. Whether they are going in the kitchen, we always correct them, don't touch the knife, don't go near the gas. Whether they are running, we say, okay, run slowly, don't run fast, you will hurt yourself. So as parents, in order to protect our children, from getting hurt, protect them from danger, and to teach them good habits and values, we are always focused on correcting them. Most parents tell me that throughout the day, they find from the time they are waking up till they go to bed, most of the conversation they have with children is when they are correcting the child. Don't do this, you can't do this, please speak softly, do not touch this, do not do that, you should not do this, you should not do that. Right? And when this happens, the children sometimes start feeling very low confidence about themselves. They feel, when they are constantly corrected, they feel, oh, I can't get it right. I don't know what is good for me. My parents only know what is nice for me. So what happens is, when they are constantly corrected, their curiosity dies out. Now they don't want to try out any new things because they are very scared. If I try out something, my parent will again correct me. When a child is constantly corrected, they don't have the courage and confidence to explore anything. They will just blindly learn to follow the parents' instructions. This may seem very good in the beginning because a child seems very obedient and very well behaved, but it comes at a price. Children who are all the time corrected might end up growing up with a lot of self-doubt, lack of curiosity, unwillingness to explore any new things. And over a period of time, as they become teenagers or pre-teens also, they start developing a lot of anger against the parent. And then they might also become rebellious, which means they will now do the exact opposite of what the parents are continuously telling them to do. When we are always focusing on correction, we might end up being overprotective, we might end up being helicopter parents. And of course, the intention is always right, but this does not mean that it is helpful to your child. So I'm not saying that do not correct your children. No, you have to correct your children. But how you correct your children is very important, because that will decide whether your child is looking at it in a positive way, or the child is developing toxic shame and self-doubt because of that correction. So for example, if your child has spoiled milk or has dropped something, then you might want to first tell the child, okay, you've dropped the milk, let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can clean it up. And then later on, discuss with the child on what the child could have done differently so that it doesn't happen again. It could be dropping the milk, or it could be not doing well in exam, or it could be small mistakes like telling lies or stealing something, right? Remember, for us as adults, we know a lot of things, that we should not tell lies, we should not steal, but small children don't know these things. So they will try out everything that we think is wrong. They will try it out because they don't know it is wrong. And sometimes they try out of curiosity. But at that time, you must tell them that it is not right and they should not do it. But along with that, it is important to explain to them on why it is wrong. And it is also important to understand what was going on when they were doing that. When you have these conversations with children, then they understand that they are not wrong, but what they did could have been done differently. So it is important to not shame and blame and put down the child for mistakes, but it is important to develop their thinking so that in future also they apply that thinking to recognize what they could do and could not do differently. So here I want to bring out the Pareto Principle, which is an 80-20 principle, which says that you spend 80% of your efforts on only 20% of the things that matter the most. And you only spend 20% of efforts on the other 80% that really don't matter. When it comes to connection versus correction, I would say that in all your interactions you have with your child, 80% should be connection and 20% should be correction. Okay. I would also like to say that even when you're correcting your child, focus on only the 20% that is really very critical, because if you're correcting all the 10 things that the child has done wrong, and if you're going on correcting everything, then the child is not going to listen to anything. The child is going to become selectively deaf. But if you focus on those one or two things at that age, which really has to be corrected, which is most important for you from the point of view of family values or your culture or habit, only focus on those 20% and leave the 80% for a later stage. When you do this, children will give you more attention and they will listen to those 20% and not ignore it. So use the Pareto principle and selectively use correction. When parents have focused more on connection in the early years, they will see that when the children become teenagers, they are more pliable and more receptive. But parents who have only focused on correction in the early years, by the time the kids become teenagers, there is a distance. It brings a lot of distance between the children. In fact, they feel very disconnected from the parents. They look at parents' criticism and correction as a background noise, and very soon when they are adults, they do not want to have conversations with the parents. They will stop sharing things and they will just learn to ignore them. So these things work when you start early. So if in childhood and growing up years you have developed connection with the children, then when they are teenagers and adults, there is a high likelihood that you will face less rebelliousness and less resistance. How do you develop connection with children? When the children are young, according to their age, spend more time playing with them. You can also do a lot of fun things. You can do a lot of masti and naughty things with them while playing with them. Tell them stories, read to them, go out and play physical games which are, physically active. So that is the way you connect with really small children. Once the children grow older, you can establish connection with them by doing household chores together, doing some things around the house together, helping them arrange their clothes, helping them, packing their bags together, or doing activities together which they enjoy at that age. When you have teenagers, then a good way to connect with them is through the common passions or interests that they have. If they like certain type of music, you can also listen to that music. You can talk to them about, what is different about that music. With teenagers, it always helps when you share with them certain point of views and listen to their point of views on geopolitics and on fashion and on technology and on everything. So with teenagers, of course, playing games and hugging and holding may not work, but having more conversations with them, normalizing conversations around them without being nosy can also build connection. Even playing a sport with them, or occasionally going on family trips where you all, do some physical activities or hike together, play cards, those kind of activities can also help you bond with your teenagers. When there is too much of correction, the children might swing to rebelliousness and power struggles on one end, or they might move on to, developing a lot of fear of judgment and blind obedience on the other extreme. You do not want children who blindly obey and who are afraid of, being judged, because these are the children who may grow up as adults fearing confrontation. So as adults, they will not be able to stand up for themselves. At the same time, you also don't want teenagers who, because of constant correction, are continuously rebelling, doing the opposite of what you say, and engaging into constant arguments and power struggles. So as parents, it is very important to understand that a balance is the key. Too much of correction can lead to any of these extreme behaviors. Focus on connection and not correction. As we become parents, we take our responsibilities so seriously that we actually believe that our only job is to raise these perfect, well-behaved, well-mannered children. And we take that responsibility so seriously that we forget to enjoy the journey of parenting. But when we focus on connection, we also enjoy the journey of parenting. We can relive our childhood with our children, have lots of fun with them, connect with them. And at the same time, of course, we have to correct them, but That should not be the focus of parenting. Remember, parenting is more about connection, less about correction. A lot of things that currently you are correcting, your children will eventually learn any which ways. And remember that a lot of parents have the urgency that they want to teach everything to the child at a young age, but everything takes time. There is enough time to teach your children different things and correct them, but connection does not happen forever. So the early years, the more connection you have, it will definitely build a very strong relationship in the years when they are older. And that is when, if you have already had a connection from childhood, your growing up years and middle years and older years will be much better. You will have a much better relationship with your child. I hope this video was useful. If you liked it, do subscribe, do share it further with other parents, and write your comments in the comment section below on what are the different ways you connect with your child. Do not forget to mention the age of your child as well.